I mean this in all sincerity when I ask the question to Bandai Namco. What the hell are you guys thinking? Now, listen, I'm excited as everybody else for Armored Core 6, Fires of Rubicon. We finally got to see a little bit more the other day when they launched another trailer. We now actually have a release date. And the reason I'm doing this video is we now have collector editions. We have two different types of collector editions. We have the standard collector edition and the premium edition. Something that I do like that Bandai Namco has done right over the years is they do include collector editions for computer. It seems like a lot of times we've gotten away from that, and it's all console exclusives. And I get a lot of questions on my channel. Hey, where's the link to the Steam thing? Where's the link to the Epic Games Store? Where's the computer code? Well, at least these guys have got that going for them. The trade-off, they are absolutely nuts when it comes to the asking price of $229.99 US or $449.99 US, depending on if you want the plastic garage. So I got some good pictures here, some nice high quality photos, which I did have to scavenge for a little bit online, but I did find them. And here is what the 229 version is going to get you. It's going to get you a base game in the console that you want. It is available on PlayStation 4, PlayStation 5, Xbox Series S and X, as well as on Steam. With Steam, it will just be a digital code, but you still get the Steelbook regardless. And that's obviously the second thing you get is the Steelbook, which I think looks really, really cool. I wish we got to see a little bit more like the back or the sides, but I'm a huge fan of FromSoftware, and they seem to always nail Steelbooks. I think back to the Dark Soul Collector Editions that I got, the Elden Ring Collector Edition. These guys know how to do this stuff. So I have full faith that the art is going to be awesome. You also get, looks like 3 sheets of various stickers. I assume these are somehow explained in the game, maybe the different factions you work for, or maybe the different groups that are available in the game. I'm not really sure on that. You're going to get a digital soundtrack. As far as I can tell, at least on what the page shows and a little bit of the website description that I was able to find, this is the full soundtrack, which is nice. A lot of times they do like selected scenes or selected pieces. It looks like this is the full thing, which is great. You're also going to get a very small little kind of shadow box that has pin badges in there. Looks like 4 different pins. You're going to get an art book, but the reason you're probably buying it is for the figurine, which stands at a whopping 19 centimeters. And don't worry, I did the math for you. That's about 7.5 inches tall. So slightly smaller than the standard controller. Slightly smaller than the standard collector edition. Usually those are around 11.5 inches or so. This definitely sits shorter than that, but it seems to be a little bit wider, which may be some of that trade space there, but still very, very expensive for $220. Now, if that isn't enough for you, well, fear not. They also sell the premium edition, which includes everything that I told you before, including, as far as I can tell, the same figure in the center. The difference now is it is enveloped in a larger piece of $200 plastic, which they are referring to as the garage. And here you can see some more of the kind of scaffolding that goes around it. I think it helps kind of puts the figure more in context with the size. I mean, you could see here these like little tiny guardrails around here. Like you can imagine people are walking around here trying to like service this robot. Here you can see some of like the big ceiling fan like running in the background. Like it kind of gives you the sense that this is like a snippet of like an industrial area. And that does look cool, and I like that. The problem that I have though is the cost. And that is an extremely, extremely big ask when you think that most of the consoles that are going to be running this game are kind of around that price. Now, it's not to say that FromSoftware games aren't typically amazing and masterclass, and I struggle to think back the last 15 years, dating back to Dark Souls, that FromSoftware released a game that wasn't instantly a Game of the Year contender or Game of the Year winner. You think back to all the Dark Souls games they did. You think of all the stuff that FromSoftware did with Elden Ring. You think of now this, right? And I'm thinking to myself, like, okay, pretty good chance this game's going to be epic. So I feel like this is one of those, and if you played other Armored Core games, by the way, you kind of know what to expect. But for a lot of people who haven't, or aren't familiar with FromSoftware or kind of the quality they produce, it's usually of the highest tier. That said, a blind purchase on a game for this price is really, really stupidly expensive and honestly a bit frustrating. I've seen a lot of the THQ Nordic Collector Edition specifically starting to creep around this $230 price point. They have like the SpongeBob SquarePants Collector Edition, which got really, really expensive. They had Destroy All Humans that was kind of in the same vein. So I feel like you're getting into a situation where maybe they did it and everybody else thought, oh, we want to do this too. And this doesn't, by the way, I did not forget about Square Enix and the Final Fantasy 16 Collector Edition, which is, I think, $300 something. I want to say like $350. So we're getting into this point now where these game studios are really kind of starting to put a little bit too much emphasis on their collector editions and asking for way too much. Now, this figure was more than 19 centimeters. If it had multiple points of articulation, if it was more along the lines of some of the other figures that you could get where you could pose them and they weren't just solid statues, if they weren't just pieces of plastic that were basically mass assembled together, but had a little bit more charm to them, maybe if they were made out of ceramic, or maybe if they were bigger, they had light up pieces or anything, maybe you could say, well, okay, you're paying a lot of money for this collector edition, but you're getting a really cool kind of like museum quality piece, something that you could look at and display very proudly. But think of what 7 inches looks like on your desk, and then ask yourself, is that worth this asking price? And I think universally the answer is probably going to be no. I think when you get into the higher price point, when you do add this garage, it does add much more scope and complexity, and you kind of get an idea of how massive this is, and you get an idea of that sense of scale. If that was at that $250 price point, I could totally see people probably biting on that a little faster, and then maybe selling just the figure itself for your traditional like $120 to like $150 price point. But asking for $200 on top of an already insane amount of money just for this kind of plastic chassis is honestly bonkers. Now, as I wrap up this video, I will post links in the description box below to the official Bandai Namco store where you can go ahead and pre-order your very own if you want to. As I tell everybody with every collector edition video I've ever done, if you are even remotely interested in this, buy it now. Most likely this will sell out. I don't know why, especially at this price point, this will sell out, but FromSoftware has that reputation, especially when this game starts gaining traction and people realize how fun it is. This will sell out. So if you think you want it, do yourself a favor, pre-order it now. You could always cancel later. Thank you guys so much for watching. Take care of yourselves, and until next time, I will see you guys on the other side.